Hey, everybody. Welcome. Dustin Harris hanging out in the podcast chair again. Little mini-sode for you. Got a question for you. Curious as to what your feedback would be on this. But first, want to remind you, we are sponsored by Anow Software. I just got back from the summit in Las Vegas where I had an opportunity to rub shoulders with Greg and Marty and the team there at Anow Software. Love those guys. Love their wives as well. They were both there, and great people to work with, and great company to work with as well. If you've not checked it out, do so now. It's anow.com/coach. Again, it's anow.com/coach. Okay, so I had an interesting experience, and I'm going to just set this up by saying, well, let me ask the question first. Let's start there. The question is, how do you handle comps in private neighborhoods? And these are not gated neighborhoods. These would be, well, that's on the table too. Let's talk gated neighborhoods. Not a lot of those in my area, but there are a few. My question is not so much about taking pictures of the gate or the private property sign or that kind of thing. I mean, I think that's pretty standard with most appraisers. If you are out taking comp photos, you drive up to the gate and it is a private drive. It's a private subdivision. I'm not one that's going to go in there. Maybe some of you are. I'd be curious as to what your comments would be on that. Please comment below. If you're on the Coach Cam on YouTube, you can comment right below this video. If you are on the computer, then just comment on the web page itself. If you're on your smartphone, you have to jump to a computer. Really easy to do. Go to theappraisercoach.com and click on podcast, and then the comment section's right there. So, again, I'm not so much talking about private property when it comes to comps themselves. My question today is in regard to subject, not subject photos, but comps in the subdivision that the subject is in. Okay, so in other words, your subject, the subject of the appraisal, is in a private neighborhood, whether that be a gated neighborhood or whether that be just a private neighborhood with private streets with a big old sign that says private property only, right? I had one of those this morning, and it's not one I pulled comps on to begin with. I normally do, but this was a brand new house. It's only been built less than a year. The county really had no information, so I did not pull comps before I went to the inspection. And so I did the inspection. After the inspection, we started pulling comps, realized two sales are in the neighborhood. So now the question is, do I go back in the neighborhood? I mean, I had permission to go there for the subject inspection, right? Do I have permission? Do I have the right? Do I have the nerve? Do I have the time to go back to that same subdivision? Again, I want to set this up properly. This is a subdivision where I was in it this morning. We pulled comps afterward. I had permission to be there. I was invited to the house by the homeowner to do the inspection. And then after I left the subdivision, we found comps in the subdivision. So the question is, do I have the right to go back? Do I call the homeowner and say, hey, I need to go back into your subdivision to do pictures. Is that cool? Or do I just take, I don't know if it's the easy way out. Maybe it is. Maybe it's the lazy way out. I mean, I don't really want to go back out and take those pictures, right? Maybe I need to. Maybe I need to drive past it to kind of see what the condition is, what the quality is, what the setting is. I don't know. I'm curious as to what you guys think on this. So, if you have permission on the one side, do you have permission on the other side? And let's take the scenario to the next step. Let's just say that I did have my comps pulled before I went out there. Would you then, either before or after your subject inspection, would you drive around and take pictures of comps in a private neighborhood? Just because you have permission to go to the subject, do you have permission to drive the other streets? I'm just curious. I'm just curious as how do you handle these things, and if you think it would be okay to just take a picture of the sign out front. By the way, that's what I did today. On the way out, I turned the car around as I was exiting the gate, and I took a picture of the private road sign because I don't plan on going back out there. I knew there was probably comps in there, didn't have them pulled before. If the lender comes back, if the client comes back and says, hey, buddy, why don't you have pictures of these two sales if you were in the subdivision already? And my answer is because I didn't have them pulled when I went out there, and it's a private subdivision. I don't have the right to go back in. I'm lazy. I don't have the right to go back in and take those pictures. So I'm curious, appraisers, what you are doing when it comes to private neighborhoods. I want to tell you a true story about a very famous individual, and hopefully this will jog your memory a little bit to help comment on some of the things, anecdotally, of course, that you've experienced when it comes to private neighborhoods. But I first want to remind you, speaking of jogging your memory, when was the last time you thought about ANOW software? And if you haven't recently, why not? I had an opportunity, as I mentioned at the first of the program, to talk to the individuals at ANOW software. Absolutely love those individuals there at ANOW. Great people, small company, growing company, but I love the fact that tech support for ANOW is spot on. It's great. You will be able to talk to a person. You will be able to have your questions answered, and they respond to appraisers' needs. I love that about ANOW. The product they have right now is phenomenal. The product that they will have in the near future is better because they're always improving their product. If you want to manage your entire appraisal office, check out ANOW. Go to anow.com/coach. Again, it's anow.com/coach. All right, folks, so we're back. We're talking today about a question that I had concerning comp photos in private neighborhoods. I think most of us here would agree, all my listeners would agree, if you drive to go out and do comps and it's a private neighborhood, there's a big sign that says no trespassing, private neighborhood, private roads. At least I think most of us are just going to take a picture of that gate and move on, right? Whether it's an actual gate or whether it's just an entrance to a neighborhood, we're going to take a picture of that entrance. We're going to take a picture of that sign that says no trespassing, private roads, what have you. We're going to move on. The question on the table today is, what if your subject is in that neighborhood? Does that change things for you? Do you feel like you have the ability to drive around and actually take comps in the neighborhood? I posed this question to my secret fake Facebook group, the All-Star team. By the way, let me pause here and just make a note. I get messages all the time from listeners saying, I don't find your group online. I'm on Facebook and I typed in All-Star team and I don't see it. It's because it's a secret group, folks. It's a secret group for a reason. Otherwise, I would be sorting through individual requests. In fact, I did that for a while, just called it a closed group, and I got requests constantly from people, and I was constantly having to vet them out to make sure they were actually members of the All-Star team. It is a paid membership to be a part of that group, okay? Not to be a part of the Facebook group, but that is a fringe benefit of being a part of the All-Star team. So if you join, when you join the All-Star team, you will get an email indicating how to sign up for the Facebook group. And by the way, it's a great group because you will not receive any negative criticism, any questioning in that group. One time had a guy that got a little bit negative. One time, that's it, and he was gone very quickly. It is a very positive group. You can ask any question that you want in that group, and nobody's going to say that's a dumb question. They're going to answer you with professionalism and with respect, and I don't see that on the internet. Off on a tangent. Sorry about that. I just want to let you know about that group. But I posted this question to that group this morning, and all of the answers were the same. Everybody came back and said, hey, if my comps are in the same subdivision as the subject, I'm going to pull comps before I get out there, and I'm going to take pictures before I leave. Let me tell you a situation where that would not work out very well. This is a true life, multiple time situation. I'm not going to tell you just one story because this happened over and over and over again. I happen to appraise in an area that is just outside Jackson Hole by the name of Wilson, Wyoming. Okay, and Wilson, Wyoming is a very hoity-toity, high-income area. All right, lots of famous celebrities. When they say they live in Jackson Hole, a lot of them live in Wilson, Wyoming, is where they live. Very, very high-end area. This is where a big ski resort is, and lots of money in that area. An individual that you might have heard of also lives in that area. He lives in a subdivision called Teton Pines, and his name is Dick Cheney. Yes, the prior vice president of the United States. His primary residence has been there for years, including when he was vice president of the United States. And yes, I was doing appraisals in that area. Now, as you can imagine, this is not just a gated community. This is a gated and guarded community. It's a golf course community. I know right where Dick Cheney's house is. The reason I know where Dick Cheney's house is because it's pretty obvious when you get there. And let me explain what I'm talking about. When you get to the gate and you pull up to the gate and you show them your business card, now I'm talking about when he was vice president. Things have changed now. He still lives there, but it's definitely not the high security situation that it was before. But anytime I had an appraisal in that neighborhood, and it was, once every couple months, it's a big neighborhood, it's a big area, lots of sales in there. I would always run into this situation where I would pull up to the gate and I would show them my card. And here's the funny thing. I would always know when Dick Cheney was home. I would know simply by this. If I pulled up and gave them my card and said, I'm a real estate appraiser, I have an appointment on this particular road, they would say, go ahead. If they said, go ahead, and didn't follow me, I would know that Dick Cheney was on the road, that he was not there. If they said, wait, please, and a guard will escort you, then there would be a pickup truck, security pickup truck that would follow me from the front gate to the appointment, sit and wait patiently till I was done. And when I got out of the appointment, they would follow me back to the gate. Now, do you think I can drive around and take comp pictures when I've got a pickup truck following me? No, that ain't going to happen. So just one anecdotal experience where I don't care whether I picked comps beforehand or not. I don't care if I passed comps on the way to the subject. I'm not hanging my camera out the window when Secret Service is following me and wondering what the hell I'm doing in this neighborhood, right? So my question to you folks is, what do you do in neighborhoods that are not guarded, but private? And what do you do even if your comps are in those neighborhoods? Would love to hear your feedback, folks. Would also love, speaking of the All-Star team, as we talked about earlier, would love to have you be a part of that great group. Not only do you have an opportunity to interact online with other appraisers across the nation in a very positive way and get your questions answered, but also you have an opportunity, of course, to receive my newsletter, which is in both audio and video. Sorry, editor, let's try that again. Which is in both audio and digital versions. So check it out. Go to theappraisercoach.com, click on memberships, and join us today. Talk to you folks next time, and thanks for joining me today.